When I bought the plot of land, we were just 8 boys with similar interests. We used to camp outdoors together. One by one, each left to fulfill his obligations, and in the end, I was the only one left in the house. Because usually when it comes to crunch time, it's never the way people said it would be, never the way it should be.
Väčšinou je to tak, že keď dojde na lámanie chleba, je to stále inak, ako keď si ľudia rozprávajú, ako by to mohlo byť.
Here in this solitude, situations are resolved and things don't pile up. Things are not left unresolved. Basically, I'm just here by myself and I can resolve matters that haven't yet been resolved, the ones that constantly pop up and wreak havoc. They're always there. This kind of solitude is a new dimension in my life. Sometimes I spend a whole week here. I only say a few words and then I usually sing. I'm getting to know myself better, but I've come to the conclusion that man as such is a social creature. Once in a while I go to the pub in the evening to take a look, just to be among people for a while. I don't drink anything, I just watch the people. Whenever I'm in town, I see how I wouldn't want to live, and I'm glad that I am where I am. I'm on the dole and I give all the money to my mum. Even though she still works, I would say that she is a case for social services. If I didn't give her my 1,700 crowns every month, she wouldn't be able to pay the rent. I take on some temporary jobs. The 1,000 crowns I get mostly cover my food expenses.
Nastávajúce voľby do vyšších územnosprávnych celkov majú regionálny charakter.
I never read books when I was in elementary school. I bought my first book when I was 19 and doing military service in Bratislava. It was called The Scientific Cognition of the Soul, and I've bought several hundred books since then. If I ever had a really burning question, I could immediately find the answer to this question in one of those books. I like the so-called mother words I grew up with. Love. That's probably the most beautiful word. As for a family or children, I never really thought about having a wife or kids. I wouldn't want to change my life, and I wouldn't be able to live here with a wife and child. It's not possible under these conditions. It's very tough. And I wouldn't want to live in an apartment building either. Only after I manage to create conditions suitable for normal family life will I be able to have one. But as I've already said, any contemplation or imagination of the future is, for the time being, merely an illusion. No, I'm not self-sufficient. I buy quite a few things, but I long for a time when I won't need to buy anything from a store. I also need money to live, that's just how it is. When I have the chance and when there's extra honey, I offer it to people who want that instead of sugar. My friend Martin and I keep bees here. We have 6 hives at the time being, and they're hibernating now, just relaxing. As the proverb says, all we leave behind us is shit, only bees leave honey. I always wanted to keep bees. My granddad did. This year I bought 2 swarms. It was raining, and when I moved them to my beehives they were quite irritated. 3 of them stung me. After being stung I was unconscious for about 2 hours. I was just trying to hang on. I wasn't ready to go just yet. I'd like to plant a few more trees. So far I've managed to do so, but I consider this a warning that something is still not right, or something isn't as it should be. If you're really clean of all substances, you can really feel joy. We're supposed to be clean. But even I have periods when I smoke tobacco and I feel that I'm not clean.
Cítim, že nie som tak čistý.
I love to bathe outside. I feel reborn. To greet the day by bathing in cold water just gives me strength. I've noticed that we always want to eat cherries in the winter and go sledding in the summer. I just try and live in the present. I accept the cold in winter, I enjoy the snow, and in spring, I breathe the spring in as deeply as I can. And in autumn, when the cranes fly away, well, for me, that's the most powerful season. These Eurasian cranes nest in northern Europe and migrate south towards Africa. Their largest gathering spot is in Hungary. And for the last 10 years I've been going there by bike with my friend. It's a very intense experience, one of the most intense the earth can give me. The largest number of birds were there this year, about 100,000. Not even scientists have an explanation for this. Once a year, something natural, instinctual comes over me, something that isn't forced or affected. And after seeing something like that, you get the feeling you might as well die, that you've achieved something unique. Sometimes I feel like a nomad. I still feel like traveling on horseback through the country, roaming, planting trees. But gradually I've come to the conclusion that Jesus is the closest to truth. He's the only one who contends that he originated in truth. And yet that doesn't stop me from living in harmony with the earth. Because I think that the Creator clearly wanted us to respect all living beings around us. And as for the Indians, I have to say that I adopted their view of the world. They taught me to respect the earth as our own mother. The dream catcher is a symbol of life. It's a circle in which the spider's web represents the web of life on earth. We as human beings are part of it, but not its masters, since none of us wove the web of life. The single beads represent living beings on earth. They symbolize that everything is interrelated. Through this search, I eventually arrived at a point which I call permaculture, which means permanent culture. In order to make all human settlements, everything we do, last as long as possible, we have to avoid producing endless waste, which we'll eventually be unable to deal with. Because waste is a completely unresolved issue. It's a time bomb, and we're just leaving it for those who come after us. As I wander across the country, this is what worries me most. Every once in a while I find out who brought it here, and then I ask that person to take it where it belongs. Whenever possible, I make piles and ask the garbage men to take it away. I do use kerosene, but this is about the extent of it, and it makes a difference whether I leave 350 kilograms or 5 kilograms of garbage a year. As I wander through the country, nothing annoys me more than people's ignorance. We build temples, but the greatest temple for me is what was made by the Creator, whatever is fundamental in nature. If a man could just hear and feel the suffering of all those living creatures which suffer and are forced to depart this world due to our ignorance, simply because we want to have more and more, I hear the trees inviting me to do something so that they can continue living here and sharing this life with us. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, when we plant trees, we're actually looking ahead 100 years into the future. A strong wind blows over the East Slovak plain. I want to plant oaks, fruit trees, nut trees, cherry trees, make them into windbreaks. Because I think it's good to travel across the country and have the possibility to eat fruit directly off trees which grow freely and which don't belong to anybody. Once I read this idea, there's just one word on the great clock of time, now. On the road to then, we arrive at the house of never. Everyone wants to put someone else's house in order, but first we have to put our own house in order. If we each did this, then eventually there'd be nothing left to put in order. The way back, as if we were going back into the cave. But for one thing, I think there's a huge difference between a cave and the way I live. And another thing, because of me and my way of life, X number of generations will still be able to live here after I'm gone. But if we continue in the direction that the industrial world has led us, and has led us for no more than 150 years, if all civilizations before us lived the way we are currently living, we would find it impossible to survive under the conditions which exist. An old holy man said that just as all living beings gradually die, man must feel the sorrow that comes from the dying out of all living beings, and can even himself die from the solitude in his soul. Video shots from the archives of Jozef Kratochvila and music by Miroshvitsky were used in this documentary. Featuring, script, technical cooperation, sound, edited by, production, camera and direction.